Welcome back, guys, to another episode with the Love of Football. Today's game was quite interesting in a way. 1-0 to Liverpool. Unexpected the way the game was played out, to be honest. Given the state of play, I think Arsenal were good in breaking Liverpool's plays and vice versa. I think it was happening in a game where you see a game of chess between two grandmasters. I think both the defenses were rock solid. Talking about a few players here, right? I think Magalesh Mosquera again. Saliba got injured in the first 5 minutes. I thought Mosquera might be the weak link here, but he turned out to be big, man. He turned out to be quite big. Timber, Calafiori to a certain extent, but I think these three were the main assets that Arsenal had and found to dissipate any sort of attack coming in from Liverpool. And for Liverpool, I think whenever Konate has a good game, honestly, I think our chances of winning increase because Van Dijk's presence next to Konate is always really mature. Right, Coke is in this situation and Szoboslai, man. So I'll explain the build-up step by step, right? Let's just go to the chart and try to understand what was really happening, right? So initially, Liverpool were again not, I would not say comfortable. They were trying to settle down. They were trying to knock the ball around, trying to get rid of that mid to low block, which Arteta brilliantly, again, people resort to calling it dark arts by Simeone, but I think Arteta has been brilliant tactically in terms of trying to play that formation with three centre midfielders, trying to build that block and ensuring Liverpool were not getting any passes through those channels, right? Now you look at the momentum graph. In the first 10 to 15 minutes, Liverpool were sort of trying to build onto some sort of momentum, right? And now, if you go back, yeah. So what was happening was Merino handling the situation with Madueke, right, supporting him right here. Zubimendi had the holders role. Rice on in the left centre midfielder position. Gyökeres again the number 9. I think Gyökeres had quite a confused game, honestly. I think, but getting back to the build-up, Van Dijk, Konate would push themselves ahead. Gravenberch in situations where Szoboszlai again was trying to get ahead. Gravenberch would tend to get in between the centre backs, Van Dijk and Konate, to help Liverpool with the build ups. You would see a McAllister trying to get ahead in those positions, right? Now, the problem with Liverpool was that even on a high line, right, we were really cautious. We were extremely cautious trying to find the right pass and everything. It gave enough time to Arsenal. In fact, I think Arsenal's recovery time is better than Liverpool's. Honestly, I have to say that, right? In the first half. Now, in the first half, this was happening that this was a recurring theme, right? Kirk is trying to find a pass to Ekitike. Kirk is trying to find a pass to Wirtz, which again, on the graph, it seems pretty easy, but it wasn't that easy because the players were trying to close them down constantly. And then the moment he would try to find Ekitike, you have a Mosquera on him, right? The moment he would try to find a Gakpo on the ball, you'd have a Timber on him, right? So Van Dijk started resorting to playing long passes to Salah, right? Now, in those situations over there, Wirtz, again, physically off the ball, he was trying a lot. And I think he made a couple of good recoveries in the first half when Arsenal were enjoying possession. We haven't gotten to that right now. Calafiori, I think he is one of the best assets. Better than Miles Lewis Kelly at this point in time. A fit Calafiori, in my opinion, is better than MLS, right? I think he pocketed Salah to a certain extent. Now, Szoboszlai in this position and Martinelli was making many recovery runs as well. So you get the idea, right? Liverpool basically had no outlet to play from altogether, right? Barring one, I think Gakpo was fairly decent in creating some sort of an opportunity, but Liverpool were not tenacious enough, losing the ball again and again in this area right here, right? Losing the ball here, again, not really lucrative in those half spaces, expecting Wirtz to be making those challenges here, getting here. Gakpo would be tugging the line, you would have a Wirtz here, but then Liverpool were just not able to penetrate their defensive line, despite knocking the ball around pretty well. Now, what Arsenal did was, so even though both the teams were very cautious, they took their time in trying to understand what the opposition is offering. Now, Arteta knew that this is going to be a game of cancellations. So did Slot, right? But I think Arteta had an upper hand over Liverpool in the first half because of this very reason, right? Now you have a Madueke over here, right? Merino was extremely vicious, man. This guy has some venom, right? Physically, this guy is omnipresent. And then you have a Zubimendi, who was intercepting passes whenever Liverpool were transitioning on an attacking transition. He would intercept those passes. Gyökeres again getting into those tendency to get into those wider spaces. But the problem for Gyökeres was even in situations where Zubimendi found him, right, with a good pass here and there, even if he gets past Gravenberch, he was finding it difficult to get past Konate and Van Dijk. He tried to body them on a couple of occasions. There was a time when a long ball was supplied from the back. Gyökeres got past Konate, but he lost control of the ball. Similarly, Szoboslai played a key role, right? Played a really key role again. Arsenal, how did they find success was because they were controlling the momentum in possession, right? Now, Madueke, I think he was their best attacker, made some really scintillating runs at the back, but Kirkes was always backpedaling, sticking to him, matching his intensity, and showed that he was toe to toe with him, right? And he provided the right coverage, something which was missing in the previous game against Newcastle. I think Kirkes turned up really big, winning all his duels, right, in those positions. And I'll get back to these Hungarian fullbacks. How did they succeed, right? Martinelli, again, I think Martinelli had a terrible game, honestly. I think he was making up a couple of good runs, but Konate and Szoboszlai were really good in pocketing him, ensuring that he was silent, right? And again, I think the attack, as good as it looked with Madueke getting into those crucial spaces, I think he won a couple of corners. Arsenal did get a couple of corners, but they were just not good enough. So most of the build-ups were going through the flanks, right? You had a Madueke and Martinelli on either flanks. Arsenal were not able to capitalize anything through the center. So I'll show you the heat map now for Madueke and for Martinelli. Right, so Martinelli in a bit of a helter-skelter here. You could see that he was substituted off Ebershe Eze, right? And I don't think Martinelli had that great a game, to be honest. And I think they started noticing that Szoboszlai is actually matching his intensity with him. So Arteta wanted to use the super sub, Madueke, who started the game for them. And if you look at the heat map, Madueke caused havoc. But if at the same time, look at the touches, right? The heat map is intense. But at the same time, if you see the duels, he won just 1 out of 5 duels, just 2 out of 3 aerial duels against just one successful dribble. If I show you Kirkes, look at that. Matching the intensity like I spoke. Kirkes matched his intensity. Madueke was pocketed on each and every occasion, won 5 out of 5 duels, 2 out of 4 aerial duels, with a lot of accuracy in the passing regimen as well. Now, you need to understand this was a game of cancellers, right? Due to which they were not really retrieving the passes that they needed to, right? And I think similar problems existed for Liverpool and for Arsenal at the same time. Now, let me show you, right? I think the least favorable areas for Arsenal, right, throughout the game were these areas right here, right? And the only lucrative areas which I found were where Madueke was making an overlap. Martinelli try to cause some problems, but he could not, right? And the only time they looked really good, the momentum was being built because of the corners that they conceded. I think Liverpool conceded some 5 to 6 corners in the first half, and we all know that Arsenal is called Setpiece FC, which is again a bit of banter here and there, but in all seriousness, I think they were the most threatening of those set pieces and situations where Joe Gomez again got beaten by Madueke in the second half, right? We all know that he had a brilliant flick touch, but Alisson Becker made that recovery brilliantly, right? What changed for Liverpool was they upped the intensity, right? Now, McAllister here, right here, Gravenberch would be here, Szoboszlai would be manning this flank, right? And like I mentioned, he pocketed Martinelli, even though Martinelli was good, I felt, making those defensive runs. But Szoboszlai was trying to find Wirtz in these areas, and I think he did a brilliant job right here, bro. Right? McAllister would be in these situations at times. Now, Gakpo had some sort of freedom in certain phases, right? When he had the ball, I think he got past Timber on a couple of occasions. And even though Mosquera was trying to provide some sort of coverage, Gakpo would start taking shots at Raya, which weren't really that effective. But Szoboszlai, man, I think again, right back position, totally mastered it, right? Now, the problem with Arsenal was also that they lacked a creative outlet, which is why I think if they would have they brought on an Ebershe Eze pretty late in the game, right? And Doman as well, and Odegaard as well. By that time, they had subsided completely. But I thought Eze was the one who did the maximum damage, and he could have done more if he would have carried the ball really well. There were situations where Joe Gomez, when he came on for Konate, there was one opportunity which he found with Szoboszlai still being very compressed, as they could have actually gotten past him, but he lost control of the ball, and the ball was in Liverpool's hand. Eze should have started, in my opinion, against Van Dijk, Gravenberch, and Gomez in a way. And the reason why I say that is because Arsenal needed some sort of a tenacious ball carrier, right? Someone who can actually play Rice, Merino, Zubimendi holding the ball well, right? In those situations, could hold the ball up really well. Madueke could have surged in those situations, but Eze also has some great dribbling tendencies, right? Again, you might feel that this is something which you can be critical of. Please go ahead and jot that in the comments. I would appreciate any sort of feedback, but again, this is what I feel that Gyökeres was not able to capacitate to those physical levels that Van Dijk and Konate were offering, right? So all in all, despite cancelling one another, I still felt that in totality, Liverpool deserved to win the game, right? Because in second half, they upped the tempo, they upped the intensity. Wirtz looked better with the flicks and with the layoffs. Again, Ekitike was absolutely shambolic. I think he had a terrible game. But what really worked for Liverpool was that free kick which Szoboslai scored, right? And that was brilliant. And also Curtis Jones' inclusion again, that press baiting mechanism, and he's really good with the ball when it comes to people who are trying to block him or trying to close him down. But I think that Szoboszlai free kick, man, was an absolute bomb, which went 35 yards out. I think it was massive. Um, Even though Liverpool had the least number of shots, right? Situations where even Salah tried to cross the ball into the box, Wirtz was right there. So Wirtz had a role where he was, first half, he was a little underwhelming, but at the same time was making those defensive runs, was providing coverage. Second half, he was more of the creative outlet that we needed. And by creative, I don't really mean literally getting past defenses. If I show you his heat map, right? So this is Florian Wirtz heat map, right? Now, he was a little bit of everywhere, right? But he did occupy those positions in the second half where he is the most glorious to watch. And he made 3 dribble attempts where he was successful. Again, not volume of dribbles, but this is enough for him to actually stir a lot of trouble in that back line. And then he won a couple of duels too. So I think Wirtz is doing really well, and he's done a phenomenal job overall for Liverpool. In the second half specifically, I think even though Arsenal upped the tempo, if you look at the chart, they upped the tempo towards the end. But second half, all in all, Liverpool deserved to create more. Liverpool were definitely pinning them down, and Arsenal forgot what it was to threaten Liverpool, barring the extended time, the injury time, I think, where Liverpool were definitely up there. Right, matching with their intensity. Van Dijk stood out loud, was absolutely phenomenal, right? Gravenberg was amazing. So was Szoboszlai, Wirtz. So it was a little bit of everyone contributing to what we call a champion's mentality for them to win this game. If you like this video, please do not forget to subscribe, right? Comment what do you think about the game, and let me know what do you feel is going to happen next.